The world's wealthiest individuals have already bought everything that can be owned. They own the private islands scattered across the South Pacific, the 500-foot megayachts equipped with missile defense systems and submarine bays. The entire industries, the media companies, the pharmaceutical conglomerates, the defense contractors, the social platforms that collectively dictate how you live your daily life. They own the politicians who write the laws, the lobbyists who shape the regulations, and the algorithms that determine which information reaches your screen. But now, in 2026, the global ultra-wealthy have turned their resources toward the acquisition of something no king, no emperor, no conqueror, no dynasty in the entirety of recorded human history has ever successfully purchased. They are chasing time itself. Not more time in the sense of a longer retirement, not a few additional years of declining vitality in an oceanfront compound. They are pursuing the permanent abolition of biological decline, the indefinite extension of peak human function, the engineering of a body and a mind that simply does not age. The billionaires have decided, with the full weight of their fortunes behind that decision, that they no longer plan to die. Bryan Johnson, the entrepreneur who sold his company Braintree to PayPal for $800 million, is currently spending over $2 million every single year on a singular, all-consuming mission to reclaim the complete biological profile of an 18-year-old. Not the appearance of one, the actual cellular, vascular, hormonal, and neurological profile. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, a man who's already changed the architecture of global commerce, has poured billions of his personal fortune into Altos Labs, a biotechnology company with one audacious, world-altering mission: to find the biological reset button for the human cell. This is not about a better diet or a more disciplined gym routine. This is not a wellness trend featured in a lifestyle magazine. This is the biological arms race for human immortality, the most expensive, most consequential, and most secretive technology race in the history of our species. Today, inside the Wealth Vault, we are declassifying the high-tech secrets, the controversial therapies, the frontier science, and the philosophical implications of the 1%'s war on death. We are asking the question that defines the next century of human civilization. Is death finally becoming just a technical problem, one that can be solved with a large enough checkbook and a brilliant enough team? The vault is open. For the global ultra-wealthy elite in 2026, health is no longer a matter of wellness, is no longer a matter of preventive medicine or annual physicals with a concierge physician. It has evolved into something that did not have a vocabulary a decade ago, is a matter of optimization. Biological optimization. Total, data-driven, medically supervised, financially unlimited optimization. Bryan Johnson's Project Blueprint serves as the single most documented and most extreme evidence of this paradigm shift in elite longevity strategy. Johnson consumes over 100 specialized pharmaceutical-grade pills, powders, and compounds every single day, a protocol developed through years of iterative clinical testing and continuous biomarker analysis. Every single gram of food that enters his body is precisely calculated for its caloric density, its micronutrient contribution, and its systemic inflammatory impact. He maintains a team of over 30 world-class physicians, biochemists, sleep specialists, ophthalmologists, cardiologists, and neurologists, monitoring every measurable biological variable in real time, every single day of his life. His reported biological age, as measured across multiple organ systems using the most advanced diagnostic tools available in 2026, is documented to be significantly younger than his chronological age. His cardiovascular fitness metrics place him in the top percentile of 18-year-old males. His rate of epigenetic aging, by his team's published measurements, has been reversed. But the reality of what the ultra-wealthy are doing to their bodies in pursuit of longevity goes much deeper and considerably darker than a sophisticated supplement protocol. In the shadows of Silicon Valley, in the private medical facilities of Marin County, in the offshore clinics of Panama City and Zurich, and in the invitation-only longevity summits that do not appear on any public conference calendar, there are therapies being administered to nine-figure net worth individuals that have not yet been approved for public clinical use anywhere in the world. Among the most controversial, young blood transfusions. a process rooted in a scientific phenomenon called parabiosis, first documented in laboratory experiments, in which the plasma of young, healthy donors between the ages of 16 and 25 is directly transferred into the circulatory systems of aging recipients. The claimed mechanism is the presence of growth factors, signaling proteins, and regenerative compounds in young plasma that stimulates cellular repair in older tissue. Companies like Ambrosia Medical were offering this service commercially in the United States before regulatory intervention. Offshore providers continue to offer it to wealthy clients today, outside the jurisdiction of the FDA. For thinkers like Peter Thiel, the co-founder of PayPal, the first outside investor in Facebook, and one of the most intellectually disciplined contrarian minds in the history of venture capital, aging is not a natural phase of human life to be accepted with grace. It is a disease. A progressive, degenerative, ultimately fatal disease that happens to be universally normalized because it is universally experienced. And his position, shared by a growing consensus of frontier longevity researchers, is that every disease in human history has eventually yielded to the sustained application of scientific rigor and sufficient capital. There is no categorical reason why aging should be the exception. They are treating the human body not as a sacred, finite vessel, but as a sophisticated biological machine. A machine in which worn components can be identified through continuous diagnostic monitoring, slowed through targeted pharmaceutical intervention, and ultimately replaced or regenerated through emerging biotechnology. From precision stem cell injections administered in private Panama City clinics to CRISPR-based gene editing therapies offered through offshore research facilities operating in regulatory gray zones, the top 1% are actively and systematically rewriting their own biological code. They are not trying to age more slowly. They are trying to stop the clock entirely and then run it backward. When Jeff Bezos committed the foundational funding for Altos Labs, reportedly in the range of $3 billion, at launch, the global scientific community felt the tectonic plates of modern medicine shift beneath their feet. Not because the science was new, but because the scale of private capital entering the longevity research space signaled something the scientific establishment had never previously confronted. A billionaire who intends to personally live long enough to see the results. The singular scientific mission of Altos Labs is cellular reprogramming. To understand why this is significant, why this represents a genuine potential inflection point in the history of human biology, you need to understand what aging actually is at the molecular level. As the human body ages, its cells do not simply wear out in the way that a mechanical component wears out from friction and use. They lose their epigenetic instructions. The epigenome, the complex layer of chemical signals that sits on top of the DNA sequence, and tells each cell what type of cell it is, how to repair itself, and how to function optimally, becomes corrupted over time through environmental damage, oxidative stress, and replication errors. The cells become confused. They stop performing their specialized functions. They stop repairing the damage they accumulate. And eventually, they stop dividing entirely, entering a state called cellular senescence, where they sit in the body like damaged machinery that still draws power but no longer produces output, and actually emits toxic inflammatory signals that accelerate the deterioration of surrounding tissue. This process, this progressive corruption of epigenetic cellular identity, is what Altos Labs is targeting. Their approach, building on Nobel Prize-winning research by Dr. Shinya Yamanaka, involves the application of specific molecular signals called Yamanaka factors that instruct aged cells to partially reset their epigenetic state, to restore their original programming, to behave functionally as younger, more capable, more regenerative versions of themselves. The analogy that Altos Labs researchers themselves have used publicly is precise and clarifying. It is like reformatting a computer hard drive that has become corrupted and sluggish with accumulated data errors, without deleting the underlying information. The cellular identity is preserved. The corruption is cleared. The operational capacity is restored. If this technology achieves full therapeutic application in humans, if the cellular reprogramming process can be safely, selectively, and repeatedly administered. An 80-year-old patient could theoretically regain the tissue regeneration capacity, the immune system robustness, the cardiovascular efficiency, and the neurological plasticity of a 30-year-old. Not permanently, but repeatedly, administered as a treatment at regular intervals throughout an indefinitely extended lifespan. This is no longer the realm of science fiction. This is peer-reviewed biology being funded at a scale that has no historical precedent in private medical research. Altos Labs is not the only institutional player in this space, with 9-figure annual research budgets. Saudi Arabia's Evolution Foundation, a sovereign wealth-backed longevity research institution, has committed $1 billion annually, sustained indefinitely, to the singular scientific goal of extending human health span and ultimately conquering biological aging as a clinical endpoint. $1 billion every year, with no defined termination date. The Evolution Foundation alone represents the largest sustained institutional commitment to longevity science in the history of medicine, and is operating in parallel with dozens of other well-capitalized private research programs across the United States, the United Kingdom, Israel, and Japan. The scale of capital entering this field in 2026 is not the behavior of optimistic philanthropists. It is the behavior of sophisticated investors who have run the numbers and reached a conclusion. Because the person or the institution that owns the validated, scalable, patent-protected technology for age reversal will not simply become the world's first trillionaire. They will own the most valuable commercial asset in the history of human civilization. They will own the commodity that every human being on Earth will eventually need. They will own access to life itself. But even the most optimistic longevity researchers, even the most enthusiastic Altos Labs scientists, even Bryan Johnson's 30-person medical team acknowledge a gap. A window of biological vulnerability between where we are today and where the science needs to arrive. What happens if the biological body of a 60-year-old, a 70-year-old, a 55-year-old fails permanently before the cellular reprogramming technology reaches clinical deployment? The billionaires have a Plan B, multiple Plan BS, in fact, each one more extraordinary and more philosophically destabilizing than the last. Welcome to the world of cryonics, the science and industry of preserving the biological structure of recently deceased individuals at ultra-low temperatures in a state of suspended metabolic function, until future medical technology reaches a level capable of repairing the cause of death and safely reviving the preserved individual into a functioning life. Companies like Alcor Life Extension Foundation, based in Scottsdale, Arizona, are already preserving the bodies, and in some cases, exclusively the neurologically preserved heads of paying clients in liquid nitrogen storage at temperatures of -320 degrees Fahrenheit. As of 2026, Alcor maintains over 200 preserved patients in its facilities. Full body preservation contracts are priced at approximately $200,000. Neuropreservation, the head-only protocol, begins at approximately $80,000. They are waiting, suspended between the biological state of death and the legal classification of death, in a space that has no precedent in law, in philosophy, in religion, or in medicine. Waiting for a future civilization advanced enough to do what ours cannot yet do. Waiting for a second chance at consciousness. The theoretical underpinning of cryonics rests on one foundational premise. That death, as it is currently defined, the cessation of measurable biological function, is not the irreversible end state it appears to be. It is a technological problem. A problem of information preservation and restoration. If the structural information encoded in the neural architecture of the brain, the connections, the synaptic weights, the electrochemical patterns that constitute memory, personality, and consciousness, if that information can be preserved intact, then the possibility of restoration is not categorically impossible. is merely a question of sufficiently advanced future capability. And for those among the ultra-wealthy who place insufficient confidence in the structural integrity of biological tissue, even at cryogenic temperatures, there exists a third option. The final frontier of the immortality technology stack: mind uploading. Companies like Nectome have pursued the goal of creating a complete, high-resolution map of every single neuron in the human brain. Every synaptic connection, every dendritic branch, every electrochemical pathway, with sufficient fidelity to constitute a functional digital replica of the human mind. The philosophical proposition is as simple to state as it is difficult to evaluate. If every memory you have ever formed, every preference you hold, every personality characteristic that defines you as a unique individual, if all of that can be accurately mapped and digitally reconstructed, then even if your physical body expires, your consciousness could continue to exist, operating within a synthetic computational substrate, inhabiting a digital environment, or eventually, if the technology progresses to the point of feasibility, transferred into a biological or synthetic host body. The legal, philosophical, and theological implications of this possibility are genuinely without precedent. What is the legal status of a digital consciousness? Who owns it? Does it have rights? Is it the same person or a copy? These questions currently have no answers. And the billionaires funding the research that might make them relevant are not waiting for the answers before writing the checks. The global longevity and life extension technology market, encompassing pharmaceutical interventions, cellular reprogramming research, cryonic preservation, neural mapping, and digital consciousness research, is projected to represent a multi-trillion-dollar commercial sector by 2040. Immortality has evolved from a mythological quest, the fountain of youth, the philosopher's stone, the elixir of life, into a formally structured, institutionally funded, multi-billion-dollar industrial complex. And the question is no longer whether this technology will exist. The question, the one that should concern every person watching this, regardless of their net worth, is this: is no longer a question of if. It is a question of how much will it cost? And far more importantly, who will have access? This leads us to the most uncomfortable question of our time. The question that sits beneath every clinical trial, every cryonic preservation agreement, every billion-dollar longevity research commitment, and every $2 million annual biological optimization protocol. If every billionaire lives for 500 years, if the ultra-wealthy successfully decouple themselves from the biological mortality that has governed every human civilization in recorded history, what happens to the world that the rest of humanity continues to inhabit? Throughout the entirety of human history, death has served as the great equalizer. Not in the romantic, consolatory sense of a comforting philosophical abstraction, but in the hard, structural, politically consequential sense. The king died. The empire passed to an heir who died in turn. The dynasty collapsed under the weight of its own succession crises and generational transitions. The land was redistributed. The power rotated. Death was not merely biological. It was the fundamental mechanism by which political, economic, and social power cycled through human civilization. But that era is ending, perhaps permanently. Consider the economic implications with full seriousness. A 70-year-old billionaire with a net worth of $100 billion, biologically reset to the metabolic and cognitive function of a 35-year-old, continuing to compound that wealth across 500 additional years of active, cognitively sharp, strategically superior economic participation. That is not merely a wealthy individual. That is a category of entity for which no existing legal, regulatory, or democratic framework was designed. Every inheritance tax system in the world was designed around the assumption of mortality. Every estate law, every succession regulation, every generational wealth transfer framework, all of it predicated on the inevitability that the accumulator of wealth would eventually stop accumulating. remove that inevitability, and the architectural foundations of democratic economic competition dissolve. Are we entering a future where life itself, biological youth, cognitive vitality, and the physical capacity to remain active and powerful becomes a tiered subscription service? A world stratified not merely by income or inherited wealth, as it already is, but by something far more absolute and far less reversible? A world where the wealthy remain biologically young, cognitively sharp, and economically active indefinitely, while majority of humanity continues to age, to decline, and to make way for the next generation in the way that every generation in history has made way? That is not a dystopian fiction. That is the logical endpoint of the trajectory that is currently being funded, researched, and quietly celebrated in the private conference rooms and exclusive longevity retreats of the global 1%. At WealthVault, we do not editorialize on behalf of any ideology. We follow the capital, we analyze the technology, and we present the reality of what the most powerful people on Earth are building, with their money, their scientists, and their ambitions. That is our function. That is our commitment to you. And the reality we are presenting today, the multi-billion-dollar biological arms race, the cellular reprogramming research at Altos Labs, the cryonic preservation facilities in Arizona, the neural mapping companies pursuing digital immortality, the sovereign wealth funds committing $1 billion annually to conquering death. That reality is not speculative. It is documented. It is funded. It is accelerating. The global longevity economy is on a trajectory that industry analysts project will touch every sector of the global economy within 20 years. Healthcare, insurance, real estate, inheritance law, pension systems, immigration policy, and the fundamental structure of democratic governance. The downstream consequences of even partial success in the longevity research currently underway will reshape human civilization more profoundly than the Industrial Revolution, the Digital Revolution, and the Artificial Intelligence Revolution combined. Knowledge, as always, is the foundational asset. And the WealthVault community is built on the conviction that the most important knowledge is the knowledge of what is coming before it arrives. If you had the resources, if tomorrow you were handed access to the same biological optimization protocols, the same cellular reprogramming therapies, the same longevity technology that Bryan Johnson and Jeff Bezos are currently deploying, would you choose to live forever? Or is there a meaning, a structure, a beauty embedded in the finitude of life that no technology and no checkbook can replicate or replace? Comment the word immortality below and tell us your answer. How much would you pay for an extra century? For 2 centuries? For an open-ended lease on existence? In our next episode inside the Wealth Vault, we reveal the invisible billionaires, the individuals who control the world's most critical physical resources from deep within the unregulated shadows of private equity and sovereign wealth structures. Names you have never heard, power you have never imagined. Subscribe to Wealth Vault. Turn on the notification bell. Because what we are building here, episode by episode, vault by vault, is the most complete, most rigorous, and most unflinching documentary examination of elite wealth and power available on this platform. The future is not coming. The future is already being built behind closed doors in private laboratories with 9-figure budgets and indefinite time horizons. The vault is closed for now.